Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive: to recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello and welcome back to Phasers Set to Stun. In this ongoing series from a Film By podcast, we focus on every quadrant of the expanding universe of Trek by covering television, animation, movies, directors, and more. Planning the course, as always, is your core Trek crew. I am Scott Hoffman.
I'm David Burns.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
And in this episode, we're continuing with Starter Treks, a spoiler-free curated episode list of the top 10 episodes you can watch as a great way to get into each series. After listening to this episode, you can find that list in the description below. And just to be clear, we're talking about the 10 episodes to watch in the order of appearance, not necessarily in order of preference. And what are we talking about, Scott? Deep Space Nine, again. You're coming back to us for Season 2. So, crew, let's get into it. Dave, I think you're starting us off with The Homecoming.
I am. The Season 2 opening episode and the first one of a three-part story. A Bajoran earpiece arrives on board the station, which belongs to a thought-to-be-dead Bajoran-resistant legend, Lee Nallis. Kira talks Sisko into letting her go to Cardassia 4, along with Chief O'Brien, to see if this individual is alive, and if so, rescue him. While these two go to search, Bajor is on the verge of civil war as an extremist group called the Circle appears and are beginning to cause problems on the station. Their goal is to eliminate all non-Bajoran, and they are gaining power. This is all the reason why everyone hopes Lee Nihilus is indeed alive, so he can help bring peace and stop this internal conflict. Written by Ira Stephen Bear and Jerry Taylor, and directed by Renich Kolb. So, this is a pretty eye-opening episode, right? I mean, three episodes immediately, which I know we're going to dig into a little bit more. But what I find very interesting about this episode, Frank Langella, for one, who refused any credit for this role because apparently he was doing it for his kids who are like huge Star Trek fans. I think that is a fantastic move from him. I always like him. He's been around a long time and has done a lot of stuff. But one of the favorite rules of acquisition is in this episode. I laugh hysterically every time. Every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies. And that's true.
Yeah.
I love that one so much.
Yeah, so, I mean, this one, I found it really interesting because I had forgotten entirely that this is the start of a three-parter. Refresh my memory. Like, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, we haven't technically had one of those yet, have we?
No, this is the first time there have been a three-parter.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily feel like it's setting itself up that way. Like you don't know that it's part one or part two of anything. It just bleeds right in. I think it's interesting how it starts to set the tone for the long play that Deep Space Nine leans into really well.
Right.
That it's going to be, there's pocket episodes, there's bottle episodes, but a lot of it is made for the long-term investment. And I don't know, it didn't seem like it was drawn out. Like I was bought into the entire trilogy, which is part of the reason we're going to talk about all three of those from the beginning, obviously. But and it also gets into a lot of those deep political roots of this, right? About the unrest and some guerrilla warfare and how people are adjusting to the new Bajoran government, the new balance of power. I think it was a great way to start the season.
Yeah, I agree. Having a three-parter was a bold move because they'd never done that before. But this is the first time you start feeling that they're moving away from that next generation style of storytelling. The individual episodes. It gets even more so as the series goes by when they have this serialized storyline. But here, we're away from the station, away from the monster, the problem of the week, and now we're getting more into the political intrigue and learning a lot more about Bajor, its politics, its religion. It makes for a great season opener, and this is a season with a lot of good episodes, and I think it started off very strongly.
This is starting to lean towards where we're going to get a whole season story arc. You see, Deep Space Nine is starting to go that way a little bit. Not just yet, but it is heading in that direction, which is a new theme for Star Trek.
Yep, this is the season where that starts too. Here, and you start feeling the bits of story. They're starting to feed you the little seeds that will spring out and grow for the rest of the series.
Yep, absolutely. I know the one scene that I wanted to talk about was when Sisko was talking to Dax and O'Brien, who already knew about Kira's plan. I thought it was funny that everybody kept coming in and talking about it, and it was like, is there anyone on this station who does not know about Kira's plan? And they're like, Quark?
And Quark probably knows, but
probably.
Yep. Well, and it's a good pull through with the end of last season in the hands of the prophets, because what is her name? I hate her so much. I mean, credit to Louise Fletcher, who plays Vedic Wynn.
Vedic Wynn.
I group my teeth every time.
So much.
Yeah,
we won't be done with her for a while. But
but she's such a good actress, such a great character. The fact that you love it, you love to hate her.
You love to hate her.
That's the mark of a great actor in a villain role. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's also hard for me to not see Frank Langella as the bad guy from Dave, pulling the strings. I'm just like, it's always going to be that guy, but I just got to turn that off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move into the next one. The part 2 of this is The Circle.
Yes, The Circle, written by Peter Allen Fields and directed by Corey Allen. In the second part of the 3-episode arc, Major Kira is abruptly reassigned from Deep Space Nine as political tensions rise on Bajor. While she seeks spiritual guidance at a monastery, Vedic Bareil helps her uncover a plot by the extremist group known as the Circle to overthrow the provisional government. Meanwhile, Commander Sisko investigates and discovers that the rebellion is being secretly armed by the Cardassians to destabilize Bajor and drive the Federation away. As the Circle's forces prepare to attack the station, Kira and her allies race to expose the conspiracy before Bajor falls into civil war. This, like being the second part, it really goes on the very strong performances of Nana Visitor and Frank Langella. They really give weight. I mean, Langella is a big draw for this series. I mean, he's a very well-known actor, and having him on it, even though he's not credited, was a big coup for the producers for the whole show, because they are. And they're both very strong people. Nana Visitor does not get enough credit. She's phenomenal as Major Kira, and this is a really good episode. But even more, this episode even goes deeper into the political exposition. It shows that shift towards the serialized storytelling. The beginning of that style. It's a great second parter, which a lot of times those second parts in a trilogy kind of fall flat. This one doesn't.
Not this one. And we get to see Sisko's baseball for the first time. On his desk,
yeah, that's right.
And it starts making a lot of appearances throughout this season, I might add.
Which I didn't get the connection that was a leftover from last season. From
it wasn't there.
It wasn't there.
The holodeck character.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's interesting. Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of depth you get with Kira in this when you see how much she means to everybody on the station as they're letting her go. It seems like this, legendary war hero is not much of a replacement for her.
No.
Not really connecting. You can see that, kind of his lack of faith in himself doesn't really engender a lot of faith in his character. One of the things that struck me, like the more we're talking about and the more we're getting into the Circle, it's not the last time we'll see this kind of interfaction kind of come up as some kind of third force or third party in this. We'll have to talk about it when we get to the Maquis, but there are parts of me where it's kind of like, is this like the start of the Maquis? Is this the mini Maquis? Or is it...
Spoilers, Scott. Spoilers.
I know.
Calm down. We'll get there.
I don't know what it is yet.
So for me as a cinematographer and a guy who likes to direct, one of the things I want to point out is the director shot the scene in Kira's quarter in one continuous, uninterrupted take. They edited together, showing like some intercut, like close-ups and stuff like that, and reverse angles. But the master shot of all of it was there as one long take. I think that was really cool. I love it when directors do that stuff. You don't get to see a lot of artistic stuff like that in Star Trek, and it was neat that the director actually pulled that one off in this one. So I wish we.
It's a pity they didn't. Yeah, it's a pity they didn't keep that one long take in there without the close-ups, because I would love to have seen that. I mean, I love when directors do that.
Me too. And another thing, I mentioned this in the season 1 when we talked about Deep Space Nine, but I tell you, every time Quark just loses it and starts laughing hysterically, I start laughing along with him. When he got deputized by Odo, and he just in the background just started busting out laughing.
Yeah.
So good.
I got to give him credit for acting through those teeth. Like,
Yes.
I don't know how that wouldn't irritate the heck out of the inside of your mouth. Just all the different points. I'm sure it was, smoothed down and whatnot, but man, that would...
Wouldn't you think you'd
hard
get
to
sores
emote.
and stuff in your
I would
gums
think so.
because of that?
I would think so.
Oh,
It's got to
man.
be. It's got to be so hard to talk. And think he did that for 7 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And to perform as good as he does, that's impressive.
Yeah. All right, well, rounding out the third part is The Siege. That's written by Michael Piller and directed by Winrick Colby. Sisko and the Federation are forced to make a difficult choice that could drive them out of DS9, but they won't leave without a fight. With families and non-essential personnel evacuated, they make a stand against Bajoran forces being manipulated by the Circle. Meanwhile, a reluctant Bajoran war hero finally believes in himself enough to live up to his own legend and help the DS9 crew. On Bajor, Kira and Dax find an old shuttle that takes them to the heart of the Circle, with evidence that could turn the tide. It's a strong conclusion to a 3-part opening that sets the tone for the season and possibly for the rest of the series. I don't know if either of you were a fan of Wings,
Yeah.
the show when it was out. Seeing Steven Weber as Colonel Day made me happy in this one.
He was that show was still running when this was airing.
It was.
Wasn't it? I thought that was like 97 or 98. So yeah, he was well known then at that time.
But it was interesting to see kind of the guerrilla tactics they employ with this one, kind of hiding in Jeffrey's tubes and trying to fight back for the station. It's kind of hard to talk about this part of the trilogy without
Giving away anything.
spoiling things. Yeah. More than I already have. But
again, I think it speaks volume to Sisko's character again here. We talked about him last season and what he, the character he shows with his son and stuff like that, but for the station. This also shows his character as well because, and I'm trying not to give anything away, obviously, because we're spoiler free here with this. But I mean, the fact that the Federation said, "You go, get out of there, we're done. Pull your team out," and he was like, "I'm not doing that. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And then obviously he got people to buy into that. I won't fault anybody for you leaving, but then obviously we know what happens. I just think that was really shows how strong of a commander Sisko is.
Yeah, that's a good point to raise, and I think I totally agree. It's not the last time we'll see kind of a big rousing speech from Sisko, and I think that's one of the powerful things about Avery Brooks is that you see a lot of the respect that he commands and a lot of the powerful stature that he has. There's a lot of great balance in there, and one of the things that comes to mind is he hands a letter to Jake that seems very conversational. It seems very casual, even though that's a pretty weighty thing. He's basically saying, I might not ever speak to you again, so I put all this in this letter. That's a big thing for anybody to say to anybody, let alone a father raising a son alone to a young teenage son. So
there's even the line in there, I don't remember exactly what it was said, but it says, dying gets you off the hook, living for your people. And I don't remember the rest of it, but I just thought that was a very powerful line that was given. It's true.
I feel now, it feels like the writers now have a grasp on what they're planning on doing with Sisko. It felt a little rough during the first season
Yes.
with his character. Now, especially with this episode, it feels like they finally got the hang of it. They know what they're doing. They made him a strong leader and a strong commander of the station. And this episode, I don't know if you guys noticed, has probably the largest cast that I've ever seen on one of these shows. Almost everybody is in this episode. You got the entire regular cast, which is rather odd. Usually one or two are missing, but you got Rosalind Chow's there, Max Grotechik, Aaron Eisenberg, Haiti Hatai, Philip Anglin, Louise Fletcher. They're all there. All there. The secondary casts too. It could make for a very, very crowded episode, but it doesn't. They all feel natural. They all feel like they should be there. It's a great ending to the three-parter. I remember when this first aired and watching it, I think this really made me fall in love with Deep Space Nine because I wasn't sure about the first season. I really wasn't sure. It just felt like a copy of The Next Generation, but now it's come into its own. And I just remember loving this three-parter and loving this ending.
So as with any TV series, season one is going to be a little rough, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of your characters, you don't know where they're going to go yet. You don't know how you're going to develop them yet. But when you get to season two, you start to see that a little bit more. And you're right. This is where we're starting to see a lot of these characters start to shine. And they're starting to really start to develop that chemistry together. And you see it with everybody practically. We're getting to know the characters, obviously, for one, but you're getting to see them get to know one another and start to, as actors, even perform better with each other. Wayne, you know as well as I do, I was a bigger Babylon 5 fan than I was Deep Space Nine.
At this time, yeah, you were.
A lot of my attention was on Babylon 5 at this time, and that's going to come up a little bit. We'll talk about that in an episode that I'm going to discuss. But so watching it now, Deep Space Nine, with what I know that I remember back then, I can see why I was aggravated with Deep Space Nine than I was Babylon 5. But now, in the future, me seeing it looking back in hindsight, both of them were great shows. They really are. Yeah. I should have given Deep Space Nine a little bit more effort, in my opinion.
Well, it was hard back then not to compare the two shows. They were airing exactly the same time, and during the first season, Deep Space Nine just basically gave us more of what we saw in The Next Generation, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not anything original. Babylon 5 was giving us this blow away, continuing storyline, things that we'd never seen before. So yeah, a lot of people were moving over to that. But I think this is the season where people started paying attention more to Deep Space Nine because, by the end of this series, some people consider this, and still do to this day, their favorite Star Trek series, and I can see why.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we go from the seriousness of a very heavy three-parter to Rules of Acquisition, which goes in a different tonal direction.
Yeah, and this episode is really important. So I'm not really spoiling anything, but I'm going to give a little bit of hints to what's going on in the episode. This is written by Hilary J. Bader and Aaron Stephen Bear, and directed by David Livingston. Quark is chosen by Grand Nagus Zek to negotiate the first Ferengi business deal with the mysterious Gamma Quadrant species known as the Docile. When Quark's new assistant, Pell, proves unusually skilled and ambitious, he is unaware that Pell is secretly a woman, defying strict Ferengi law that forbid females from earning profit. As their partnership deepens, Pell falls in love with Quark, and her secret threatens to unravel both their fortunes and reputations. There are two really important things to take out of this episode, which is why I kind of pushed for this to be included in these top 10. And it's not really spoilers, but it's very important for the viewers to notice these things. Of course, the first is of course the character of Pell, and how her appearance pushes the development of the Ferengi culture in Star Trek. We've known that the Ferengi women are not allowed to wear clothing, they're not allowed to have jobs or money, because this was established all the way back when the Ferengi first appeared in The Last Outpost back in Next Generation. So that makes it really hard to show Ferengi females on screen, if they have to be naked. This was a clever way of bringing that side of their culture onto the show without having the censors coming after them, really.
Yeah,
Plus, then you also got the first mention of the governing force in the Gamma Quadrant, called the Dominion, which is just a drop away mention here, which is why I'm not considering really it a spoiler. It'll become very much more important. You need to pay attention to that. But I think, well, what I like the most is about this episode is it is played for comedy. But there's a lot of charm to the performances, especially between Armin Shimmerman and their guest actress Helene Eddy, who plays Pell. She puts a lot of humanity into her character. And I like the way that Quark is torn between his feelings for her and his the culture. What he's been led to believe. It's a standalone episode this season, but it's a very important one for the series as a whole.
Udi was amazing as Pell, for one. I loved her performance in this, and she really shined and gave us that side of the Ferengi that we haven't seen before, and I thought that was very, very impressive just on her part. Having Wallace Shawn back as Zek is incredible. I love Wallace Shawn, but
yes.
the character of Zek is hysterical in himself, especially the whole flirting and stuff that he was doing throughout the episode. But for the love of God, could somebody please cut the hair out of his ears? That is just disgusting. Okay, foul and disgusting. All right.
I love the way he screams and yells when he finds out that Pell's a woman.
Yeah.
I think that's so hilarious.
I also want to point out Brian Thompson, who plays Inglatu. Anytime I get an opportunity, because I want to make a stab at Dayton at Podcast 70, is the fact that he was in Night Slash. He was Night Slasher in Cobra. I love to keep pointing out Cobra.
A favorite of Docking Bay 77.
Yes, a favorite of Docking Bay 77. That's why I keep pointing that out. But another thing I really want to point out too is Quark's outfit in this is awesome. It is awesome. The whole different colors, and it was vibrant, and it really spoke to his character. I loved it.
Yeah, I think the development of the Ferengi is very interesting, and I would just say, and I think I'm talking to Jeff when I say this, be patient. I know that things like Zek's character is very grating on purpose. I mean, he has his ear hair groomed. Right? It should be hard to watch, but there's a lot of great depth that's building in this. A lot of great comedy, but it's also a very important look at a species that could have just been a throwaway of, fur vests and whips, right?
Yep.
This is just a great example of how much opportunity there is for it, not just in comedy, but as a species. There's a lot of great writing with the Ferengi here.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to also bring up that this episode was nominated for an Emmy Award for the best makeup. It didn't win, but there's some great makeup in this. And also, when this episode first aired, they misspelled the title of the episode wrong on screen.
Oh boy!
They corrected it, so if you watch it streaming, it's correct. But back then, if all of us old Trekkers, if you have videotapes, go back there and check. Acquisition isn't spelt right.
Oops.
Quality control, acquisition, people. 266. Always use spell check.
Yes, quality control, people. Come on now.
All right, everybody. Well, before we get into the next episode, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, Dave will tell us about the next episode. All right, we're back. Dave, tell us about Necessary Evil.
Which I'm going to say is my favorite episode of Season 2, by far.
All right.
Written by Peter Allen Fields and Robert Hewitt Wolfe, directed by James Conway. Quark is visiting a woman named Paula on Bajor, negotiating. He learns she wants him to retrieve a strongbox on the station that she can't do herself because of a murder investigation from the past, which Odo was working on. Upon retrieving the strongbox, Quark and Rom can't hold back their curiosity and open it, revealing a list of Bajoran names. The list is forced from Quark's hand by an intruder, and he is shot. Dr. Bashir races to save his life while Odo questions Rom, which leads him back down the same path of investigation that he was doing years ago for Gul Dukat. So I absolutely love this episode for many reasons. One, the flashback sequences that we get, because the way they are able to make that station, change it around and make it look cold and unwelcoming, I thought was brilliant. But the other scene that I loved, and this is an edit that they did, is when Odo types in the password of that room and the camera switches to the inside and it's immediately a flashback. on how they cut that together when he walks into the room. I loved that so damn much. But the other thing that I love about this episode is, again, Nana Visitor. Holy crap, does she pull out one hell of a performance in here. You know, we get to see some of these characters that we've already got to know over the last season and a half. Well, not really a half yet. Well, I guess it is close enough. We get to see them meet for the first time here. And, you know, the way we meet Kira and Odo, it's kind of like strange at first. You're like, this is how they met? And it is. And it's awkward at first. And then you see how much growth these two characters have had over the years before we even met them. It's just so intriguing and interesting, and where they're going to go. And I loved this character. And I'm going to go back to something else. Rom's scream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That. Yeah.
I still laugh about that.
Yeah, it almost seems like it's nonstop.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to hit a button to turn it off or something.
Right.
I totally agree. It's such an important episode to understand more about Odo and Kira's relationship. It's a great look back at what the station was like before it is what it is today. Because I would say at this point, they had to fix a lot of things, but I would say it's a fairly vibrant, lively place, right? It has to be. It should be kind of a way station. Total opposite when you see the flashbacks. I think the first scene where we see Kira in a flashback is very emotionally powerful, and I'd say the last scene that we see with her is equally as powerful, if not more so. I love the fact that it also gives us some history into Odo's career. It's basically the beginning of his career as a investigator. And interesting how he has a reaction to the word constable. Yeah, even though that's how everybody usually refers to him.
Yeah, this is real. So it's really an important episode too, especially for those flashbacks. You know, like you said, we get to see Odo's first meeting with Kira and Quark and Gul Dukat. But more so, this episode is probably one of the most atmospheric, most complex episodes of the season. It's so well done, and mainly because of Renee and Nana's performances. They are so strong. Such complex human, characters there. Neither one of them are human. Now I've said that word, but this episode shapes Odo.
It does.
Shapes his personality. The way he interacts with all the other characters makes him very more morally. It justifies everything that he has become. Really solidifies himself, his reputation for for what he does. It's a great character storyline, or it's not storyline, character episode that you don't want to skip this one. This one's a phenomenally good episode, one of the best.
And we're starting to get to realize that Rom is not a complete buffoon.
Right.
You're getting to see that he's got some smarts behind him, especially when it comes to mechanical and technical knowledge. So I'm glad they're setting that up.
Yeah, I think it's also an interesting one that could bear a rewatch, because I remember being kind of surprised by this one and thinking back to what I had just seen. Even going back to the beginning of the episode, it almost sets itself up as a murder mystery. And it even took me a little while to figure out the resolution at the end. All right, the next one is also very interesting and dives into history of another character, this time Jadzia Dax. All right, so this episode is called Blood Oath. It's written by Peter Allen Fields and directed by Winrick Colby. An aging Klingon legend staggers into DS9, finding himself lost without purpose and reliving glory days in a holosuite and a drunken stupor. Shortly after, another aging Klingon arrives with a kinship and a sense of disgust at his weary friend. What Dax discovers as a third Klingon arrives is that this trio shares a blood oath, one that Curzon joined and she's now beholden to. Their blood oath takes them on a quest for justice that dives deep into Dax's history and proves that Jadzia can stand her ground alongside anyone in battle, anytime. It's an episode that will become pretty important to her character, and a great look into her past and her future. I love seeing Dax's history, and I love how much focus they gave, how much room they gave to explore that in this episode. Terry Farrell, I think, always does an amazing job.
Yes.
There is one standout performance in here, and I could not shake it, and I was trying to place it for the longest time.
The voice?
The character of Kang played
Yeah.
by Michael and Sarah. And
Yeah.
let me just ask before I say who it is. Um, did you two have the same kind of feeling? Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
know that voice.
Oh yeah.
How
It took
long
me a
did it
little
take
bit.
you to get it? Did you have
I
to look it up?
No, I didn't have to look it up.
No, I
I
knew who it was,
realized
yeah.
it about, I don't know, about third or fourth time he was on screen. It hit me then. Like, oh crap! I know who that voice.
Yes.
So,
Oh my God. The
yep.
chilling voice of Mr. Freeze from
Mm-hmm.
Batman the
Oh,
Animated
okay.
Series.
I
Wow.
forgot about that. I just
It
keep
was.
Yeah.
thinking. I just remember him from Buck Rogers.
Oh no.
Oh.
No, that was a totally different place. But yeah, oh my
Yeah.
God. The voice delivery in this one, Dave, am I right? It sounds
Yeah.
very, very similar. It's
Oh
almost
yeah.
to Mr. Freeze.
It is.
And it's just as powerful here as it is there.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the Klingons do a great job. Um, William Campbell, John Kalikos, is it?
Kalikos.
Colicus.
That play kind of this trio. They do a great job of kind of challenging whether or not Dax should even be involved, and ultimately bringing her along for to kind of satisfy this quest. It's hard to talk about it without getting into spoilers,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a worthwhile episode to dive into a bit more of Klingon culture and a lot more of Dax's history.
Well, all three of those actors are from the original Star Trek.
Yeah, let's
That
make
played
sure we point that out.
That they played Klingons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Kalikos was in Errand of Mercy in '67. William Campbell was in The Trouble with Tribbles in '67, and Michael and Sarah was in Day of the Dove in 1968. So it's really neat that they're bringing them back in this, which is really cool.
But they don't look the same.
No, they do not look
Yeah.
the same, not even close.
Much different.
Yeah, much
A lot more
different.
padding, a lot more hair.
Yes.
Yep.
And one thing I pulled from this episode is a line I'm going to use a lot. It's been a Klingon afternoon.
That it has. For a couple of months. Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
And this
Anything
wouldn't be
else we
the
wanna-
end we see them. Yeah, I want to bring out that, while we see these three Klingons, two of them do return to Star Trek later on to play those characters. We got Kolikos returns later, two more times in the series, and King appears in Voyager, the episode Flashback. But there's one other person. I don't know if you guys pointed him out because he's such a small part here. Christopher Collins appears in this episode. It's one of his final performances that he ever did before he passed away. Just about 2 months after this. He's a very familiar voice if anyone's ever watched G.I. Joe or Transformers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sure they have. I know we have.
We have.
We should talk about that sometime.
Yeah, sometime, right.
Yep.
I do want to point out the scene between Dax and Kang was incredible. I love that the dialogue between the two of them when he finally realized that she needs to go with them. It was that conversation that he didn't want anything to do with it, and then Dax basically telling, "This is why I need to go. This is and I just thought that was very, very impressive. But it's almost like she's stepping on the toes of the courtroom drama that we had last season. Wait a minute, you're not
Right.
that person anymore. You're a different person. So wait a minute.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I thought that was a really good scene.
Great episode. All right, let's get into the next one. I think, Wayne, you've got this.
Yes. And this would be the Maquis, which is a two-parter written by Rick Berman, Michael Piller, Jerry Taylor, and James Crocker. Part 1 was directed by David Livingston, and Part 2 was directed by Corey Allen. Tensions erupt when a Cardassian freighter is destroyed, leading to accusations that Federation colonists are turning to terrorism. Commander Sisko travels to the border region and discovers that disillusioned Federation citizens, frustrated with Starfleet's inability to protect them, have formed a resistance group called the Maquis. As he tries to mediate between the colonists and the Cardassians, Sisko learns that a Starfleet officer, Lieutenant Commander Calvin Hudson, his old friend, is secretly leading the rebels. The crisis forces Sisko to confront the growing cracks in the Federation's ideals and the beginning of a dangerous conflict that threatens both peace and loyalty. Now, this two-parter, which aired back in April 25th and May 2nd of 1994, which that's important I brought up those dates, because this is very important, not just to the continuing storyline of Deep Space Nine, but it's really important because it sets up the groundwork to the upcoming series Star Trek Voyager, which starts at the beginning of the next year, like 7 months later. Plus, this story would also carry on into the Next Generation. We got the episode called Preemptive Strike, which aired 2 weeks later after this. This is such an important two-parter. That's why we've chosen this one, and you need to watch both parts to get the whole point, because you can't skip this one. It's a great episode. Really, really good Commander Sisko episode, but it's got some great guest stars. Richard Poe as Golly Vec is back. He's pops into almost all the series. He was on Next Generation's Journey In. He would be in Preemptive Strike, and then he would appear in Caretaker, Voyager's pilot. But I love this episode. I remember when it first aired, it was really strong. I knew then that they were setting up for something big, and it proved out I was right.
Well, I mean, this two-parter is really, really important because, again, you're seeing the conflict between the Cardassians, the Federation, and the Bajorans, So, I mean, if you didn't have this episode, you'd be kind of lost of what's going on with the Maquis. So it's vital that this two-parter is, and I'm glad that we grouped it together as one, because both parts are very, very important, to be seen. But I do want to point out John Schuck, Wayne.
Yes, that's right.
Ambassador Klingon in The Undiscovered Country and The Voyage Home.
Great actor.
Somebody else that we recently met, Michael Bell.
Oh, yes, we met him a couple months ago, didn't we?
Yeah, he plays. I know him as Duke in G.I. Joe, the voice of Duke in G.I. Joe, obviously. But he's done Transformers. He's done lots of stuff. But he did. Was it Drofo Awa? I believe was the character's name.
Yeah, I think so.
In this. So no, I mean these two parters is vital. So there's definitely why we picked these.
Yeah, and it makes sense to, like I said before, the circle kind of sets a little bit of a tone for this kind of idea. So I'm glad that we had another kind of a compound pair of episodes with this. I think Brendan Casey does a great job as Commander Hudson. It's great to show kind of the conflict that Starfleet officers have to undergo when they're facing issues related to the Maquis, but also when there are connections with people in their past, and trying to see the different perspectives there. It's also a great pairing of Gul Dukat and Sisko as kind of reluctant partners in a lot of situations, which is a dynamic that I love to see, because it's almost like whatever situation they're in, there's always this subtle little debate that neither one of them ever seems to win. But it's great dialogue. It's a great pair of actors going back and forth through a lot of dialogue that just works together really, really well. And to put the two of them in a small space like a shuttlecraft, really kind of brings that to light. I think that's one thing that DS9 does really well is the only ships they have, the only transport is these runabouts. So most of the scenes have to take place in this kind of cramped conditions, cramped quarters, and it just seems like a good setting for that kind of interpersonal dynamic wherever it kind of pops up.
Absolutely.
This is a great and one of the very few examples of the producers using to their advantage the fact that there are two Star Trek series airing at the same time. Like I said before, they're planting these seeds that would sprout later on. When the show first appeared, when Deep Space Nine first started airing, we were hoping for this more connection, these crossovers to the series, and they did a really good job of planting this whole Maquis idea and letting it grow throughout this season and on. We got the first bits were shown on the Next Generation and Journey's End, but they weren't mentioned. We really didn't know because they hadn't been formed yet. Now here we got the full two-parter where we learn about them, but then it continues on again in the Next Generation, and then it continues in Voyager. It's a great idea. It's too bad they didn't do this more. Really, plant these storylines that continue over through the different series. Don't get me wrong. You don't have to go and watch those other episodes. It's not important to watch the other ones. It's just nice that there's these connections, making the whole Star Trek universe feel like one.
That's fair. Well, while we're on the topic of very important yet kind of a darker tone episode, Dave, why don't you talk about The Wire?
Written by Robert Hewitt Wolf and directed by Kim Friedman, the first female director of Deep Space Nine. And the fact they were so impressed with her, they would bring her back for some major episodes later on. Cardassian Garrick is with Dr. Bashir, heading to lunch as they do once a week, when he starts acting peculiar and begins to fall ill, but denies any help, leaving a very confused Bashir. It isn't long until Garrick has another attack and is quickly taken to the infirmary, where upon an examination, Bashir discovers that Garrick has an implant that has been placed in his brain by a group known as the Obsidian Order. This implanted device prevents the person it is in from giving away any secrets when being interrogated. Garrick is declining, and to make matters worse, he begins to speak of stories of his past which are quite contradictory. Bashir begs him to allow him to try and save his life by removing the device, while also doing what he can to get a better understanding of who he is. This is a really unique episode, a very good Bashir episode, I might add. We really get to see him and his character really start to develop, and we'll get a little bit more of that later on at the end of the season, which I know we're going to discuss. But I think this is a vital Bashir episode, for one thing. But I think this is the first time Cardassia Prime is mentioned in the series. I have to say that Andrew Robinson, who plays Garrick, I think he did a fantastic job in this role. His performance of, going back and forth of, the different stories and stuff like that. And, it's hard to fake pain. And I thought he did a really good job of showing that on screen. But I love the fact that we get to see Bashir standing up against Odo. I thought that was something cool. Bashir doesn't usually do that. Yeah. So getting to see that in his character, it's like, all right, you go, Bashir.
Yeah, it's a welcome departure from his role in Move Along Home.
Yeah,
where he's just against the wall screaming to himself, right?
Yeah,
it just seems to be this guy that can never get with somebody.
Right.
I love the fact that they have this. This is an important relationship between Garrick and Bashir that you'll see throughout the rest of the series. An important setup of the element of kind of secret orders, like the Obsidian Order, like Section 31, things that will come up a lot later. So it's definitely important to watch for those kind of reasons. But I absolutely agree. The performance by Andrew Robinson here, going through his very pleasant demeanor, kind of that disarming, you don't quite know if you can trust him, but it seems like he really wants to win you over, to somebody who seems to be going through addiction kind of withdrawals. Very, very interesting direction here too. In the particular scene where Bashir is trying to help Garrick, even though Garrick doesn't necessarily want his help, and it's hard not to say it too much without giving spoilers, but just trust us. Very important episode. A lot of powerful performances that will become very important as the series progresses.
I mentioned earlier that I would get back to talking about Babylon 5 a little bit, and this is the episode to talk about it, because the Obsidian Order was actually originally called the Grey Order, but the creators of Star Trek realized that Babylon 5 was introducing a group called the Grey Council. So they felt like they were going to be stepping on some toes, so they decided to change the name, and that's what they came up with, the Obsidian Order.
Yeah, that would have been too close.
Yes, it would have.
I remember there was a certain time when there was Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5, and Sequest DSV, and I was like, wait a second.
I know all shows. I love all three of them.
Similar. Yeah.
This is a really good, strong, important episode for the relationship of Bashir and Garrick, but it's such an important episode for Garrick because before, I always felt when he first appeared last season and throughout, he felt more like a Guinan character to me, one that would just pop up and just to give some exposition or move the storyline forward just a hair, just give it a nudge, but he never really had any of importance to the actual whole Deep Space Nine storyline. This episode, we've got more background to him. It's a whole completely different performance from him. It's so important because he becomes an incredibly important character for the rest of the series, and we're also introduced to his mentor. And who is played by another actor, Paul Dooley. He's been in practically everything. He's a fantastic actor. I remember him on the TV series Alf. That's one thing I remember him the most. But he's great, and we'll see more of him next season too. But good episode, good Garrick episode.
Yep.
All right, well, before we get into our last two, I think maybe we'll take another little break, and when we come back, we'll talk about some familiar territory going back to the original series. All right, we're back. So, like I said, this next episode is one that goes back to the original series. It's called Crossover, written by Peter Allen Fields and directed by David Livingston. Kira and Bashir are traveling home from the Gamma Quadrant when a shuttle malfunction takes them to an unexpectedly familiar place, the Mirror Universe. Although it's far from what we saw in Kirk's adventure, the Terran Empire has weakened, which leads to a new power formed by an alliance between the Majorans, the Klingons, and the Cardassians. Near the top of this power structure is a dark version of Kira, who thrives on cruelty and torture. The stranded duo have to weave their way through several surprising versions of their closest friends to find a way back to their own universe. Very hard to talk about so many of these episodes without spoiling things.
It is hard. Yeah.
But this is one of the kind of the apex of performance by Nana Visitor, because she gets to do it twice. We get the Mirror Universe version of her, obviously, and as the intendant, is that what they call her?
Yeah.
She seems to be having so much fun with
that outfit. She got to perform in that outfit. Wow.
Right.
And the bathtub scene. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Easy. But no, I mean, like, every single performance, every single scene that she's in total control. And to be having, dialogue with herself, that's not easy. So got to give a lot of respect to Nina Visitor for that. And it's an entertaining episode because it harkens back to that Mirror Universe, and that's been a big important thing since the original series. It's come up a lot of other times. It's always a fun time. But this one is an interesting look at how things could have gone in another direction. It's also interesting to see how, despite Kirk's best intentions with trying to possibly turn some things in the original series, it didn't really work out the way that he wanted it to.
So was it just me, or was Odo scary?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Frighteningly scary. He had complete control of everything down there. And man, I tell you, I was like, there's no way I would want to cross that guy. No way.
Well, and it's almost interesting if you watch this back to back with Necessary Evil. Not that I think it's just one bad day away would turn him into this other character,
right.
But you can see how with some manipulation how that could have been the case. And I feel bad for him in that sense.
How the rest of the series goes. I mean, I know the new viewers don't, but when you look at where Odo's from and what he could have been had history different, he could have been very much like that.
Yeah.
If you really think about where he could have been.
Well, and when we get into other things that we discover about his species, how if he makes a certain big decision related to that species, could that possibly turn him in a different direction? We'll see a lot of that play out. Just wait for season 3.
Yeah.
One of the things I got from walking away from this episode is I realized Bashir is just like our Wayne. He knows his music and composers.
No. Yeah, I do.
One of the subtle things about this one is the relationship between Mirror Cisco and Mirror O'Brien, the Smiley dynamic.
Smiley O'Brien? Yeah.
Smiley.
Oh, that kind of made my skin crawl a little bit. Every time I called him Smiley, I was like, oh, that bothered me.
Yeah.
Well, Cisco makes your skin crawl.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a Cisco without Jake, right? With a lot of other decisions that take him into an evil place, but oof.
Yep.
Speaking of Jake, it's not unusual for Jake Sisko not to appear in an episode, because he only appeared in like half of them last season. But we see the Mirror Universe in many of the different TV series and media and stuff, and there's always Mirror Universe duplicates of the characters, all the characters we know. He is one of the very few, if not the only character that doesn't have a Mirror Universe duplicate, because he was never born.
Yeah.
because Cisco went a different way. It's kind of unusual, but interesting. I found that interesting that it point out that he's different.
That is.
Yeah. And also, this episode went through some very last minute rewrites too. Worf was supposed to appear in this episode, but they couldn't get Michael Dorn because he was filming All Good Things, the finale. So they had to shift the parts around, and they gave all of Worf's lines to Garrick, and gave all of Garrick's lines to a new character. But it was a last minute thing. It's interesting to think about what would have happened and what may not have happened later on if he appeared in this episode.
Right. Spoilers, Wayne. Spoilers.
I'm trying not to. Oh, I think I just did. Oh, well.
So let's move on to the next episode. I think, Wayne, this one's yours.
Yes, and it's no surprise that it's the season finale. The Jem'Hadar, written by Iris Stephen Bear and directed by Kim Freeman. Commander Sisko takes Jake, Nog, and Quark on a camping trip to the Gamma Quadrant for some relaxation away from the station. Their outing turns perilous as they encounter Inris, a mysterious alien woman claiming to have escaped from a brutal warrior race known as the Jem'Hadar. After Sisko and the others are captured, the Jem'Hadar reveal themselves as the fearsome military force of the Dominion, a powerful empire that rules much of the quadrant. Back on Deep Space Nine, a surprise attack by a Jem'Hadar ship demonstrates their overwhelming strength, signaling the beginning of a new and dangerous era for the Federation. Now, this explosive, would be a good way to put it, the season 2 finale, really marks the dramatic turning point for the series and for basically for Star Trek, the Star Trek franchise as a whole. I mean, because the episode starts out rather lighthearted. It's taking them to camping trip, which is what we expected. At this point, the Gamma Quadrant is just a place to explore. It's kind of neat, but now we find out that there's a new and terrifying threat there, which completely changes everything, raises the stakes for the series. It's clear that Deep Space Nine as a series has grown that familiar episodic comfort, I guess, a good way to put it, of their early seasons, and it's now we're moving into some new territory for Star Trek.
And it's a good territory they're going because we see where it's heading. I mean, when we first saw this season air, we didn't know what was in the futures held for us in Deep Space Nine. But seeing all of it and then looking back, when this got introduced, and you realized, oh crap, here we go. It's about to get serious.
Yep. And I mean, of all the characters to be stuck in that situation together, Sisko and Quark, right? Like,
Quark screaming again. I gotta tell you,
yeah, and him just like talking and negotiating the whole time to get out of that cage. Oh yeah, it's a great performance. I've got to give it to Molly Hagan as Eris.
Yeah.
A species that we'll see in the future becoming important. Can't spoil anything, but I think her performance in this from cover to cover is fantastic. Also interesting to see and hear Alan Oppenheimer. A familiar voice from the Masters of the Universe days.
Oh yeah.
But also interesting to see, right, exactly. Interesting to see another very familiar looking starship. It almost looks as if the Enterprise is a part of this. Same.
I think
same
that was
class.
their intention. The destruction of the USS and terrifying scene, and I think I just wailed.
Well, Wayne, no, Jeff's got to cut that. We can't do that.
Yeah, I cut that out. Never mind.
The whole thing is going.
Yeah,
No.
You ruined it.
Another interesting aspect of this episode, aside from the the dramatic pairings and the performances that we see from the actors, there's a great use of ship battles in this one.
Oh, they're huge.
That I think is kind of an interesting sneak peek into the types of space battle dynamics that we see, I think, used to a great extent in this series. And I think, Wayne, you and I talked about this a long while ago when we covered that documentary. But one of the things that I'm consistently impressed with is just watching how they use ships in so many different ways. The choreography of these ships is fascinating. We're going to see much larger scale battles. In this one, there's a very, very small one that raised the stakes very meaningful and
Yeah.
definitely raises the stakes with the Jem'Hadar. They're a species to watch out for, and they're not even at the top of the food chain when it comes to the Dominion. So very,
The visual
very
effects we
important.
get here. This was an expensive episode. All the model shows that they had during the season really were them saving up for this episode, because the visual effects that we do get are really amazing and kind of shocking for Deep Space Nine. And it's no surprising that they were nominated for best visual effects for this episode. They didn't win. They won, but they didn't win. They won for Voyager's pilot rather than this one. But this is a beautifully made episode, wonderfully directed, and very, very important for the rest of the series.
And a very important setup for season 3. I think there's a pretty direct segue into that. It's not a to be continued necessarily, but a very important setup.
And it's a big farewell too. It's the farewell to the familiar comm badges that we've seen all through the Next Generation. This episode's the last time we saw them on television. We got new ones next season.
Just boil them down for more Latinum.
It's time to grow up. Yeah, time to change.
Well, we've gone through our top 10 favorites. Anything that we want to mention as a dishonorable mention, one that we should avoid or that we just recommend probably isn't worth our time. Dave, did you have any ideas on that?
Stay far, far, far away from the episode called Second Sight. Cisco falls in love with a woman named, I think it's Fenna, who has a very weird personality, and she likes to disappear, reappear, and, while I think Dax is working with a brilliant scientist who is doing terraforming, stay away from that episode. Nope.
Wayne, would you agree?
Well, I do agree that is not one of the highlights of the season, but that wasn't going to be my choice, because I thought there were a lot of mediocre episodes this season. But my choice would be Melora. It's not a terribly bad episode. The episode features Dr. Bashir. He falls in love with a crew member named Lieutenant Hasler. I think it's those love episodes. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
But, the lieutenant, she's from a low gravity world and struggles to adapt to the life on the station. I find some of the concepts interesting. I find it very interesting that the show is attempting to depict a handicapped crew member, having to use an external device like the exoskeleton to be able to move around. That part's well done. Plus I have to mention the character Melora is played by the wonderful Daphne Ashbrook, an actress I've met personally a couple of times, and because she would go on to play Dr. Holloway on Doctor Who just a couple of years later with Paul McGann. But despite that, I think the episode just falls completely flat for me. The romance element is it's too sappy, too unconvincing. I know that their original intention for the character of Dr. Bashir was to make him more of a playboy, running after every alien woman that enters the station. But that whole idea makes Bashir so unlikable. I'm glad they mostly did away with that by my next year. That's my choice.
I think of mine. I'm leaning into the reason I ask is because I'm leaning into Dave's camp for Second Sight. I'll admit there are parts that I just jumped forward a couple seconds. Conceptually, it's just so odd that there seem to be a lot of times in Star Trek where in this episode main character falls in love with guest character.
Right.
Will it last? No. It never does.
No.
I mean, we'll see, romantic, couples emerge in this. So I'm not saying it never happens, but it always seems like, oh yeah, they're gonna die. It's kind of like the red shirt concept, right?
Yeah.
I also hate to have that happen so soon with Benjamin Sisko.
Agreed.
He just lost his wife now, more than 3 years ago, granted, but it still feels like it's pretty fresh. And I understand the idea behind trying to delve into that. Can he find love again? Can we re-spark something? But to see the execution of it in this way, I'm just like, why do they got to do him like that? Like, come on.
Yeah,
If
I
they had a
agree.
chance.
Yeah.
Yep.
So stay away from Second Sight. Don't give it another look. All right, well, back into the positive. So obviously, I think it's pretty easy to see that the standout character for this season is Major Kira. Um, Dave, what is one particular moment for you that stands out as the kind of the apex for her?
Well, it's not really a moment, but you've already touched base on it. It's Nana Visitor's performance in crossover. You talked about her going back and forth between, being good Kira, bad Kira, and just being able to perform to probably obviously another actress who was supposed to be her in some of those shots and doing that split screen kind of thing. I think her performance and all that was phenomenal, and getting to see Kira as bad, which you could possibly see. I mean, she could have gone that route, with all the crap that she went through. But the fact that it just shows how strong she is in the real world, the Kira that we love and enjoy, it just shows you how strong she is. And the fact that she has become who she is, this person that Cisco can lean on, that the station can lean on. So that episode just speaks volume to her character.
It's also interesting how, just when you were explaining that, one of the things that came to mind for me was that we rarely see moments of glee or joy from Major Kira. Not that she's not a person that wants to feel happy, that wants to feel joyful, but she's been through so much. So to see such a stark, dark turn of that, when she's just like reveling in it, and she's like grinning ear to ear the whole time, and it's like, ew. I want her to be happy, but not in that way.
Not that way, right?
Wayne, what about you?
Well, I agree with you, David, that Kira had a lot of great moments this season, but I feel her strongest, and in fact, what I think is Nana Visitor's best performance this season was the episode Necessary Evil.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to give away the ending of that episode because it's probably the season's most shocking revelation, but all during that episode, Kira is defending herself in her past life as a resistance fighter. And you can see how when Odo reopens the investigation, how Kira's demeanor changes, going from defensive to kind of reflective, because she's forced to, reveal that guilt and sorrow from all the things that she was forced to do during the occupation, all that stuff that she normally keeps buried deep in her. It forces us to remember that while Kira seems to be in control and brave most of the time, but underneath she's got a very dark history that she's not proud of. And Nana Visitor did a phenomenal performance for that episode. She did one for both of that's some crossover. I love her.
Yeah.
She's a great actress.
That was my second pick in case somebody chose crossover. Because both those episodes were incredible for her.
Yeah.
I completely agree with both of you. I don't have a particularly emotionally powerful performance picked out. It just really struck me each time that I saw it. I rewatched the episodes twice when I had a chance. But I believe it was in Siege when Kira and Dax get the old flyer out of the cave.
Oh, yeah.
Do I have the right episode?
Yep, you do.
Yeah.
Because of their friendship, because of that dynamic between the two, that we rarely get to see them in kind of a, stranded on a planet doing a certain thing. It was just a lot of fun to see their performances there. And I think it's an important thing to watch for because of them being so close. And just getting a little bit of insight into that, I think was a fun time. Aside from all the powerful dramatic performances, that's just one to keep in mind if you have to be selective. It's one worth kind of watching out for.
Yep.
It is.
Okay, well, I know we've got a lot more Star Trek to cover, a lot more DS9 to cover, but
We do.
we got to keep moving on. Thanks as always, Wayne and Dave, for a great chat through season 2. Looking forward to season 3.
Yep.
My pleasure.
And as always, thanks to our listeners for joining us. Hailing frequencies are always open for you to share your thoughts and your questions. Let us know what you think, or share your favorites that we didn't mention. You might get a mention on a future show if you do. You can email us at afilmbypodcast@gmail.com. Find us online at afilmbypodcast.com. You can follow us on your favorite social channels. And if you're looking for more exclusive content and swag, send some Latinum our way through Patreon. We'll see you next time on another episode of Phasers Set to Stun.